Hello and welcome to the Conversation Factory. I'm Daniel Stillman and I'm doing this video series on how to design better conversations. Why? Mainly because if you're a project manager or a product leader or a design leader or a leader of any type, if you're trying to make anything new or amazing in the world, you need to design your conversations better. And so this series is about this core idea that I really believe a lot in about thinking alone and thinking together. And in this episode, specifically, I'm going to talk about brainstorm design. Brainstorms, man oh man, that wonderfully maligned and yet somehow incredibly popular idea. And so here's the problem. If you Google it, you'll find a lovely definition that says a spontaneous discussion to produce ideas and ways of solving problems. Also, I didn't know this, a Christopher Walken film from '83. I'm going to have to check that one out. By the way, you can check the show notes at any time. Obviously, I'm going to link to that movie if you don't want to have to Google it yourself. There'll be other slightly more useful things as well. And I don't know, here's the problem. I think most people are doing like kind of vintage brainstorming using Alex F. Osborne's like post-World War I, pre-World War II, pre-Mad Men ways of doing it. And his rules, honestly, they're not bad rules. And I used to teach these for years, and I still sometimes do. Defer judgment, reach for quantity, welcome wild ideas, combine and improve ideas, and shout a bunch. That's generally the problem. Just a bunch of people talking and nothing really happens with it. Unproductive brainstorms. I want to put this in context. I've been doing a lot of thinking about like what is your conversational OS. This canvas, 9 things I'm focusing on in my own conversations that I design. Just being aware of the interface in the conversation and the space that's happening in, how turn-taking is managed, who's invited and why, the cadence of the conversation, how the invitation is framed and how that sets you up for success, threading or the connection of one moment of the conversation to the next, power and permission, who's allowed to speak and why, who was invited and why, repair. What happens when something goes wrong, and the goals and agreements, like the purpose of the thing. And the reason I want to put this in context is that I'm a reflective practitioner about this stuff. This is what I think about all the time because I think it's really important. Conversations are this substance that, I don't know, we're kind of swimming in all the time. And if you learn how to manipulate it, which is a bad word, but if you learn how to shape it, you can shape things for the better. And here's a really simple one. Just shifting the interface your conversation is happening in. This is one of the reasons why design thinking people love sticky notes. Sticky notes concretize a conversation. They break dialogue up into little chunks. You can only fit a certain amount of information on a sticky note. And that's why they're so powerful, that once they're up, you can move them around and create new meaning. Just by introducing sticky notes, some people think they're a little ridiculous, but once you bring sticky notes into a conversation, it changes the dynamic, it changes the interface of the conversation. Imagine having a meeting without a whiteboard. And so other ways to shift the interface are using things like grids. There's a reason why Google loves the 8-up. The work I do with Luma, they have an ideation template where each piece of the paper is split up into the clear question, a clear idea, clear critique, and a resolution of that. There's lots of ideation templates, and I'm going to talk about a couple more, but just having air as your interface and having a lot of people shout and one person record everything, that's a lot of work for one person to do. So I think changing the interface that the conversation happens in is really, really important. And so the other way you can change your conversations is to change turn-taking, shift how turn-taking happens. And really this is being aware of this time to think alone and this time to think together, which I am super duper passionate about. So, for example, you could do something like the 5, 10, 20 sketch storm. I've written about this before. This is getting people to sketch on an undivided piece of paper, or divided, as your choice. It'll change the dynamic in the interface. Giving people 5 minutes to sketch an idea. Getting people to pair up with someone else, and for 10 minutes get them to share each other's ideas and find some overlap between them. And then for 20 minutes have those pair of pairs share out what they've done and try to create one overall idea or concept. That's a really, really great way to go from that thinking alone to thinking together. And what we're doing is we're changing the interface, right? By giving people a certain size and shape of paper and pen, and we're changing turn taking. Another one which you might love, 635 brainwriting. You can Google this. It's a template for brainstorming where it's all writing, and it allows you to sort of pass the idea between people and gives everyone an opportunity to have an idea, build on an idea, and modulate over time. You get this giant list of ideas, and it's all written down. The grid, the templating of it, changing that interface, changing turn taking. And then I guess the third thing that I tend to design from my conversational OS is being really conscious about designing the thread of the conversation. So in the last video, I talked about doing an exercise to get people to understand the difference between opening and closing dialogue and exploring ideas. And that's because I really want people to be conscious of making time to really get on the same page, and to really make sure that we're aligned in next actions, and to really give space in the middle for things to breathe and evolve. And so I put that stuff up there, and I'll make my entire room divided into open, explore, and close, just to reinforce this idea of making sure that we're making space for those three modes. The other thing that I have up there is the seasons model, which I've talked about before. The seasons model is a way of making sure that we're giving time for reflection and celebration, for inspiration and evolution of ideas. I'll link to this as well. It's something where it really can thread together all the different moments of a conversation. My opinion, our time is way too precious and limited to go undesigned. I think brainstorms, meetings deserve to be designed. And I think I'm going to just pop up the rustle through the pages and just put up this conversation OS again, thinking about what you can control or alter, what can't be changed or altered. Just being aware of, can we speed up or slow down our cadence, and how will that affect our dialogue? Just being aware of these different levers that are available to you. I think it's going to change how your group works together, how you converse, how you come to agreements. And if that's not the most powerful thing, I don't know what is. So thanks for listening. I'll put together some show notes for this really soon, and look out for the next video in the series.